Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast, and welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
I've got some stories about my family and the shit cabin we used to live in. Growing up, Dad was an asshole. He justifies it by saying he had a rough upbringing. Rumor has it his mother was a witch. Really into tarot cards, prophecies. Always said she would never be 60 years old. 2 nights before her 60th birthday, she and another woman were found dead. A relative took care of everything when she died, so despite our attempts to find out what happened, no one was let in on the circumstances of her death. The family last name means something satanic in foreign language. Growing up, we have heard whispers of a curse that all relationships within the family are destined to fail. Every person has gotten a divorce. There are no blood male heirs to the name. It's the end of the lineage. Anyways, Dad loved antiques. The house was full of them. When his obsession started, so did the weird things. Dad hoards gold coins. Starts compulsively buying things. Nothing of value, mind you. He is only buying old junk. Heaps of old useless junk. I don't know if that junk invited something in. But things started getting weird. One night, Dad got mad and whipped my door open, which broke my mirror. That night, I had sleep paralysis and saw a towering, slightly transparent, black shadow figure hunched over me. I could feel it trying to speak to me, in my mind. But I tried my hardest to ignore it. Basically repeat in my head, "La la la, I can't hear you. La la la. Works like a charm. Be me, demon fighter." I started hearing things more and more. At the time, we were living in a very nice suburban neighborhood. I came home from school and said, "Hey guys, I'm home." Heard a female voice reply,
"I'm glad you're back."
I heard footsteps upstairs, a door open and close, and then something big fell. Seconds later the phone rang. I answered. It was my mom. She said,
"I'm sorry, no one is home. We will be back in half an hour or so."
Booked it, ran barefoot to the neighbor's house. Came home when my parents returned, searched the house for something that would have made the loud falling sounds. Found nothing. This would happen a few more times. Mom got sick with pneumonia and got really into spiritual warfare, started speaking in tongues, prophesying about end times, fainting at church, basically turned into total fanatic. Dad joined the Doomsday Movement circa 2012. This is when everything in my family's life dramatically changes for the worse. Dad decided to move us to the mid-Atlantic in a dilapidated cabin from the late 1700s in unspecified Sylvania, and it shows. No water, no toilet, 1 light bulb. 3 miles down the road from a historic mass murder location. Charming and a good move for the family, don't you think? It's not like it had a reputation or that realtor who sold it to us wouldn't step into the house. Oh wait, it did. Realtor that we could go in, but that he wanted nothing to do with it. Even with this warning, Dad falls in love with it and buys it. Nice move, Dad. We moved into the house. Later find out multiple people died on property. Find orbs and weird distortions in pictures from the property. Find out that prior owners had known mental issues. Find out that it is known as a haunted house to local old-timers. Cabin had vertebrae and other large bones in the stone structure. Chains all over the sides of the house. Rats, snakes and mice walked freely in the house. And the basement was full of ancient jars of pig's feet. Don't tell the vegans.jpg. House was covered in Christian decor and relics from the past owners. That is crucifixes, holy pictures, saints, etc. And I mean covered. Every doorway, every wall. We took it all down because, eyesore. Needless to say, it was all creepy as F. Father even found a box full of letters from the previous owners and burned them all after reading it. Wouldn't let anyone else see the contents. For the first time, he didn't hoard something. Certain areas of the log house were worse than others. Basement was horrifying, the attic was a no-go zone, and the floor was caving in certain areas. Everyone took notice of one window. Said they felt someone watching them from it. Nobody could ever shake that feeling. Still, even to this day, the window makes us uncomfortable. Even one of the old-timers, after we all agree that the window is fucking weird, tells us a story about that exact window. Would say that when he was little, he and his homies would all play chicken with the cabin. They would see who could get closest to the cabin before getting scared. Him and his friends would all talk about how they felt the center window. The same window that weirded us out, was haunted. The paranormal activity starts ramping up. Friend and I were babysitting my brother, hanging out right by the alleged haunted window. He was barely able to speak, autistic speech delay. He stares in front of us, smiles wide, and exclaims, "Hi Betsy." We freak out. "Who are you talking to, kid? You never talk." Ask my parents what was the name of the girl who died in the house. Her name was Betsy. She died from illness when she was 16 years old. Nope, nope, nope. With the move, my parents joined a crazy Christian church. Pretty much a cult. I'm Christian, but this was crazy. Crazy in the sense that if you have cancer or get sick, it's your fault because you took communion the wrong way. Parents' language would change when talking about the church or the pastor. Would strangely say, "Hello pastor," or to us would say, "You have to listen to pastor." Pastor equals the new God. Narcissistic dad learns about holy oil and anoints the whole property. Dad began to go crazy. Really crazy. Wouldn't let us leave the property. Wouldn't let us buy anything. Gave a tiny food budget for a family of 6. All clothing had to be bought through him. My mother couldn't clean anything that was his. Was not allowed to get a job. Was not allowed to communicate with her side of the family. My dad would do everything he could to prevent her from doing any of these things. Total control freak. We lost everything and became entirely dependent on his rare good moods. He starts claiming that my mother is possessed. Screams over her. Rebukes demons within her. Throws his hands up and all as he pins her against a wall. Calls the pastor over for impromptu exorcisms. Overwhelming for my autistic siblings. As my dad becomes more and more crazed, I start seeing figures and phenomena around the house. Mind you, my father attests that this was the best time of his life when we were all together under one roof. Meanwhile, psycho shit happening. Sleep paralysis starts up again, worse than before. My dad leaves the house after a fight with my mom and the window is sucked out of the house and crashes to the ground outside. I've never seen anything like it before or since. The room felt like a vacuum. Sleep paralysis starts to get even worse. Log home starts falling apart. So does my parents' marriage after my mom realizes how bad the situation has gotten. She leaves the cult, and my dad recruits the pastor to help get rid of her demons again in an attempt to get her back. I leave the house to live on a boat. Years go by. Boyfriend and I visited the property. Why we went there, I don't know. Parents are still going through a crazy divorce. Dad is losing it. So many years have gone by. I forgot about how crazy the property is. Trying to reconnect with Dad and want to introduce my boyfriend to the family. Hold on tight, young man. Boyfriend, Dad, and I were enjoying a midnight bonfire 6 to 10 feet from the edge of the wood line. Slightly foggy and humid at night. Lots of tree frogs and katydids humming in the background. It was super loud for the middle of the night, but that's a mid-Atlantic summer for you. Psycho Dad started acting strange. Fire pit is in front of the log home where the creepy window mentioned earlier is the only window you can see. Forests always get louder and quieter, that's just nature. We are all outdoorsy granolas, so we know what the woods can sound like. But all the sounds stop. Literally no noise at all. Like a switch was flipped. It was dead silent. It was like a vacuum. Boyfriend and I nervously laugh and wonder out loud about what could be walking out there. Dad stares at the fire and flatly says to ignore it. He turned expressionless. Both me and my boyfriend WTF to that. Suddenly, even though we are standing by a good-sized blazing fire, it gets cold as shit around us. Hear a shuffle in the woods in front of us. Think it's the cat. Look down to see that the cat is next to us. Cat's attention is locked on the woods right in front of us. She puffs up and bolts. Shuffle gets louder, turns into what sounds like somebody running at us. Sounds huge, louder than any bear. Very heavy stomping that gets faster. From a slow walk to full sprint, sounded huge. I feel like I really need to emphasize just how shittingly loud this thing was. Branches move and break. It was like the scene in Lost where they see the smoke monster for the first time. Loud and obviously alarming. Definitely sounds like it was running on 2 feet and by the end is running fast as fuck. Boyfriend and my blood runs cold. Felt like that part in Lord of the Rings where Frodo tells the other hobbits to get off the road with that crazy zoom effect. We both tense up and madly backpedal as we are taken off guard by whatever the fuck is coming at us. Basically trying to GTFO under any and all circumstances. Help me baby Jesus.png. Dad doesn't move, still blankly staring into the fire. Reacts to nothing. Running stops at the edge of the firelight. From a deafening full sprint to zero noise. Impossible for any pro athlete to even stop that fast. Straight up disappears. Boyfriend comes to his senses, grabs his super bright ass flashlight and shines it to where the invisible obese running man noise was. We held our breath, frozen in shock. Nothing standing there. Nothing at all. No imprints of feet in the grass, no movement of branches. No evidence of broken branches even though it was as loud as a tree falling. Dead. Silent. We are totally confused, saying nothing to each other, staring with our jaws dropped to the floor. Dad says, "It's nothing." Still doesn't break his stare from the fire. Acts strangely and disconnected for the rest of the night. Bugs start chirping again, but there's still no movement. No more footsteps. Just the sound of crickets and a crackling fire. Bedtime. Another night. Boyfriend has to go pee, but because there are no working toilets goes outside to the tree line behind the log home. We stay in a small guest house to the front right of the cabin. Says while he was peeing he heard knocking coming from the side of the house. Thought it was a woodpecker or some animal. Brushes it off and finishes. Starts walking back and hears frantic loud knocking coming from the side of the log home. Nopes the fuck back to the guest house and closes the blinds. Tells me that days before he saw a white translucent shape in the creepy window go from left to right. Freaked him out. Freaked me out. Father's narcissistic qualities get more severe. Father and I have a falling out. Boyfriend and I realize that we need to leave before the shit hits the fan. We start packing up to leave when boyfriend sees a large looming figure on the porch in broad daylight. I didn't get a good look at it, but I saw it in my peripherals. At least 8 foot tall. Hunched over. Staring right at him from beyond the glass door. Lights flicker and go out. Joy to the world. We are plunged in darkness in the property of an unhinged psychopath. Boyfriend says creature looked diamond-shaped, like it had its arms pressed to its sides. Had funny shape on top of head, and boyfriend didn't get a good look at it. We are spooked, but keep packing. Due to some circumstances, the truck wasn't ready to move, so we had to stay the night. Darkness falls and the sounds of footsteps can be heard on the roof. And in the house, sound of walking coming from everywhere. Cats won't leave the front door of the house alone. Moments later they start screaming. We don't move a muscle and stay on the couch. Couch has a small window directly in front of it. We see a pale, gaunt face hovering in the lower right-hand corner of the window. There was no curtain blocking the window, so you could always see straight in, or straight out to the log house. The face moves from bottom right across to the left, then up, then vanishes. Next day Dad goes crazy and tries to kill us. Blocks my boyfriend's truck in. At the time it had a huge camper shell on the back of it, making it hard to maneuver sometimes. Tries to lure him to the woods. Boyfriend says no. We frantically throw all of our shit in the truck. Drive the truck through the garden to get out, don't care. Dad hops on the lawnmower. It's a huge old school mower. Just another piece of ancient junk he's collected, and tries to ram into the truck. Barely misses us and we speed off. Weeks later Dad comes over to Mother's house, 2 hours away. Stands in the driveway angrily, custody thing, control freak thing. Boyfriend hears loud taps at the door in the bedroom he was in, not at the front door. Door shakes violently. He chalks it up to my autistic brother playing tricks on him. Boyfriend looks outside and sees my brother standing in the driveway with crazy father. Finds it weird, but moves on. I'm cooking dinner when my phone rings. Caller ID says it is my mom. I watched the call ring, but like I said, I was cooking and couldn't answer. Call stops. Mom must be calling me to make sure Dad left. I return the call almost immediately. She is shaken. Asks if I was playing a joke on her. What? I reply. She says an old man with a mountain accent answered and said, I am mad at you, over and over in a deep gravelly voice. No one answered my phone. I watched it dial. I watched her hang up. I hear my autistic brother having a meltdown in the other room. I ran in to see what happened. He puts a finger gun to his head, says he wants to die, says there's a demon in him. I console him, try to talk him through it. Dad pulls out of the driveway, all goes back to normal. Can anyone tell me WTF was in the cabin, or provide any sort of insight to what this all could be?
Yeah, I mean, my take, if I had to take a guess, is your paternal grandmother was an evil piece of shit and brought a lot of evil onto your dad, who was demonically influenced or possessed. Maybe both, to where he was drawn towards a hotbed of evil in that cabin you described where such things could just whittle him down. I think it's a combination of that plus him not being mentally well in combination with all that. It sounds like he's not truly an evil man, just because the comment you said about his happiest years being when he had his whole family with him. My dad is totally sane and cool and still around, but he's made comments like that before, and it's evidence of a good heart in there somewhere is all I'm saying. Your dad needs spiritual and probably mental help. I know you said you guys are Christian, but how specifically? Like, does he accept Christ as his savior? No weirdness or caveats like, oh, but yeah, also Jesus was an alien and there are several other beings I also worship. Anything like that? I ask because demons peace out at the mention of Christ's name. They can't take it, so that part seems weird. I assume you actually believe because these things never harmed or possessed you, just spooked you, which is different. There's also something to generational curses that I don't know how to describe or give advice about, but I'm pretty sure they exist, and I think that's biblically substantiated, but I don't know that for sure, to be clear. Just mentioning it as something to look into.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel as more green texts will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.